many years, there has been a vigorous debate in this country about the safety of the nation's 72 nuclear energy power plants. That debate is likely to be intensified because of what happened early this morning at a nuclear power plant in Pennsylvania. Max?
Frank, it was an accident at the 3 Mile Island nuclear power plant, which is located on an island in the Susquehanna River, 10 miles from Harrisburg. A cooling pump broke down, and the plant did just what it was supposed to do, shut itself off. But not before some radioactivity had escaped.
3 Mile Island is a nuclear power plant located in Middletown, Pennsylvania. It is famous for its meltdown and near catastrophe on March 28, 1979, when the cooling system stopped working.
The first natural nuclear reactor was in Gabon, West Africa, 2 billion years ago, but was not discovered until the 1970s by French scientists. Nuclear generation became a popular method of obtaining energy after World War II. There are two methods of nuclear generation. The first is nuclear fission, where neutrons strike uranium atoms, which causes them to split and generate energy. The other is nuclear fusion. In this method, 4 hydrogen atoms combine and form helium, which creates a large sum of energy. However, this requires huge amounts of power. The creation of nuclear weapons with plutonium and hydrogen followed the creation of nuclear reactors. This discovery of nuclear power also led to the creation of radioactive isotopes for research and medical treatment.
So you have a nuclear, actually a meltdown that began on March 28, 1979 at 3:58 in the morning. And there's 2 phases to the accident, the actual meltdown and then the hydrogen bubble. The hydrogen bubble was caused, I don't want to get too technical here, is when the tubes in which the fuel are enclosed become exposed, they oxidize and create hydrogen.
The power plant underwent a Category 5 meltdown on the 7-point International Nuclear Event scale. The cleanup cost was over $1 billion, but including replacement power, rebuilding, and legal expenses along with cleanup, probably costed around an estimated $3 billion, and it remains the largest commercial nuclear meltdown in U.S. history. 3 Mile Island is still functional today and was a warning to the world about the risks associated with nuclear power.
Even before the 3 Mile Island incident, Mr. Epstein was an anti-nuclear activist. He based his views on 3 W's.
The W's are Wall Street. Why won't Wall Street invest in nuclear power? We live in a system that's very brutal. It's called capitalism, and people want to invest in something that makes money. Nuclear power loses money. The second issue is water. We live in a century, and you're going to find this interesting, and we predicted this, where water is the most valuable commodity, not oil, water. And the problem is, if you look around the country, you will be seeing, in my opinion, water wars. People are competing for water. The third issue and the Achilles heel for nuclear power is waste. There is nowhere to take nuclear garbage. Every nuclear power plant that operates each year generates 30 metric tons of high-level radioactive waste a year. So, if you go down to 3 Mile Island, it's an island on the river that has thousands of tons of radioactive waste. That'll never be removed. It's on an island in a river that feeds into the Chesapeake Bay.
There are also people who do want nuclear generators. They say it does not cost many lives, radioactive waste can be safely disposed of, and many countries depend on it, like the United States, Belgium, Japan, France, and many more. It also lowers fossil fuel and foreign oil use, lower emission of pollutants into the atmosphere, and can desalinate water.
Pennsylvania learned from the meltdown. They built the best emergency operations center in the country. Pennsylvania established measurements to measure the radioactivity of their power plants. They changed the exposure zone from 5 miles to 10 miles. They created evacuation plans for every city within the 10-mile radius. If an emergency occurred, Pennsylvania would distribute potassium pills to their citizens. Former Governor Singal quoted on Pennsylvania's emergency plan,
"It's not perfect, but there are plans in place now, and they simply weren't before."
Experts from Washington, D.C. now oversee random nuclear drills. The 911 system is now less scattered and not only in the big cities. 3 Mile Island can withstand a 707 airplane and still survive without a nuclear incident.
Every plant in the country is safe today based on the things that happened in 1979. Not just Unit 1 at CMI. The entire industry is safer today because of what happened back then, because of the robust things that we've done since. We have programs for continuous improvement that I mentioned. We have programs for information sharing. We have continuous training. And then, of course, we have the oversight from the regulatory agency, the NHD. So for all those reasons, better communication, as well as the creation of that internal nuclear ratings organization, we're stronger.
We're creating the operations to deal with all kinds of incidents in Pennsylvania. We didn't forget the lessons of 3 Mile Island. For example, we made sure that we created a Bureau of Radiation Protection within DER. Pennsylvania was at risk, and even though they had made great strides based on their recovery from 3 Mile Island, we had a long way to go. So what we did was we spent those 8 years building what is now the best emergency management capability in the entire country. Pennsylvania has now become known as being ahead of the curve in every respect.
The meltdown could have been even worse than it was. The accident could have been fatal. At the power plants in Chernobyl, Ukraine, and Fukushima, Japan, meltdowns occurred that turned out to be fatal. Today, both Chernobyl and Fukushima are not in operation.
To this day, arguments over nuclear power still exist. The 3 Mile Island incident led to further exploration in the nuclear field and how to safely and cost-effectively contain it. Power plants who underwent an accident now exchange information with every plant in the country so the other plants can learn from their mistakes. 3 Mile Island's nearly fatal encounter allowed the nuclear industry to change its flaws and improve overall quality to allow a smaller chance of an accident in the future.